But you do the best you can, right?
Right.
Let's start with our sponsors. Dr. Paul Koningsberg, A Year of Learning in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Labish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Hara Nissen ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Romberg in memory of their dear friend, Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, Alaa Shalom, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Peres, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameir ben Shimon, Cheryl Sher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Akiva, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon, friends of Joe Wolf, in memory of Yosef ben Chaim, Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Etel Bas Yaakov. A month of learning, sponsored by Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef, by B. Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai, and her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi, by Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his mother, Chiena Bas Aryeh Leib, and his father, Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch, by Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bas Yaakov, by Andrea and David Dolney, in memory of her mother, Edel Tzina Bas Shimshon. A week of learning by Mark and Catherine Linder, in memory of his nephew, Eretz Paul ben Sirlis. Today being the 2nd of March, Hershey and Leah Mendelssohn, in memory of his day of learning, in memory of his father, Baruch ben Avram Tzvi, and by Ernie Bloom, in memory of his wife, Ruchama Esther Bas Yaakov. May the Shemas have an Aliyah, Krank Rafir Velti Yeshua Shema Tzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, okay? L'chol B'nai Yisrael, good gebencht Yar.
May.
Amen. Okay.
Oh, by the way, we get a mazel tov. We had a great grandson born 2:00 this morning.
Oh, mazel tov.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, Kiddush. Pika.
Okay.
Virtual. Marvin and Shirley, Marvin tov.
Virtual, Yeshko. Thank you.
Virtual Kiddush, what do you mean?
Virtual Kiddush.
When the building is done, Marvin will hold you to it, all right?
Right. It's Hashem.
God willing.
A hot Kiddush, Marvin.
But that's a good lead into today's Gemara.
Okay,
Okay?
right. Why? We're going to make Kiddush. Why are we going to make Kiddush?
Make Kiddush, right. Not only that, but remember Shmuel argued that if you had a change in location, you had to make Kiddush again.
Right.
And we saw the story where someone was saying, or we're going to see, okay, what that implies. So we're on Kaf Aleph Amud Aleph, about 4 or 5 lines down, right? Right, where it said, where, yeah. Okay, where we see that follows, that the Gemara told the story, okay, why to make Kiddush at home? For one's household. Why did Shmuel say to make Kiddush in the shul? For those guests who stayed over. And then we went on and say, Va'azda Shmuel etame. And Shmuel followed his line of reasoning, his logic. The Mar Shmuel ein Kiddush ela b'makom sa'uda. Basically, that's where we stopped.
Right.
Okay? So that you have to have eating. And Steve asked how much food was necessary. I said, let's wait and see if the Gemara tells us. V'savur minei hani mili mibayit labayit. And perhaps this was considered to be going from one house to another. Aval mimakom lamakom, but from going from one place to another, bechad beita lo, in the same house, in one house, no. However, Amar laho Rav Anan bar Tachlifa. He said to them, Rav Anan bar Tachlifa, Zimnin sagi'in hava ka'amina kame d'Shmuel. There were many times that I was standing in front of Shmuel, v'nachit mi'igra la'ara, and he went down from the roof, down into the, let's say, floor, okay, first floor of the house, v'hadar mekadesh, and he repeated the Kiddush. Va'af Rav Huna savar, and also Rav Huna was of the opinion, ein kiddush ela b'makom seuda, that one does not make Kiddush except in a place where they have the meal. The Rav Huna, Kaddish, okay, why? He says because Rav Huna would make Kiddush, ve'it akra le shraga, and a situation happened that his light, the lamp went out. And what did he do? Va'ile le lemane lebe ganane the Rava bere, that he went from there, okay, with his food, his utensils, his items, to the house of his recently married son, Rava, the Hava Shraga, who had a lamp lit in his house, V'Kadish, and he made Kiddush again, V'Taim Midei, and he ate something. Alma, therefore, Kasavar Ein Kiddush Ela b'makom Seuda, that therefore he must be of the opinion that one doesn't make Kiddush unless they're in a location where they can have something to eat. Furthermore, Va'af Rabba Savar Ein Kiddush Ela b'makom Seuda. Why? He says, and even Rava also was of the opinion that only making Kiddush is only made in a place where we have a meal. How do we know this? Da Amar Abaye, because Abaye is going to tell us. Ki Havina Beimar, when we were in the house of the master. Remember, Abaye learned, teacher was Rava, right? Ki Hava Mekadesh, when we made Kiddush, Amarlan, he said to us, Ta'imu midi, taste something. Dilma ada azlitu l'ushpiza, perhaps why? Perhaps once you leave and you go back to the place where you're staying, in other words, where you're sleeping, mit akra l'chushraga, that perhaps by then the lamp will be extinguished. V'lo mekadesh l'chuba beit achila. Okay? And you will not have made Kiddush in the place where perhaps you're going to be eating. Ubekidusha dahacha lo nafkitu. And in the Kiddush here, since you wouldn't be eating in my house, right? You wouldn't be Yotzei on that Kiddush. The ein Kiddush ela b'makom seuda, because there is no Kiddush except in a place where one has their meal. So the Gemara asks, Amy, is that really the case? V'ha'amar Abaye, and didn't Abaye once say, Kol mili demar, that all of the words, in other words, all of the halachas, the practices of Rava, Hava avid kirav, that he used to follow the practices of Rav. Lavar mehani tlat, with the exception of these three. Da'avid kishmuel, which he did following Shmuel. In other words, challenging that Rava really did hold Kiddush b'mkom seuda like Shmuel. Because these were the three. Matirin mi beged lebeged, that he permitted the untying of tzitzit from one talus to another talus. The second, umadlikin miner lener, and the second being lighting Hanukkah candles, that one could transfer light, the fire, from one Chanukiah to another Chanukiah. And the third, Vahalacha Karabi Shimon Begrira. And the third was that the law followed the practice, the understanding of Rabbi Shimon in terms of dragging. What does that mean? The Tanya, as taught in the following Braita. Rabbi Shimon Omer, according to Rabbi Shimon, Gorer Adam, Mita, Kisei, V'safsal b'Shabbat, that it's permitted for a person to drag a bed, a chair, or a bench on Shabbat in their home, given that it has a dirt floor. Ubilvad shelo yitkavein la'asot charitz, so long as it wasn't his intent to create some sort of a furrow. Okay? Kechomrei de Rav hava avid. So the Gemara answers us, though according to the stringencies of Rav, is what Rava did. Ule de Rav lo hava avid. But according to the leniencies of Rav, okay, Rabba did not do. That was the point. So now we get to a new statement in the Gemara. The Rabbi Yochanan. What about Rabbi Yochanan? What was his view? Okay, remember we saw on the previous Amud that there was a discussion about those people who made Kiddush in the synagogue.
Right.
That they were Yodsei Kiddush having heard it, but not Yodsei having drunk wine. So let's come back to that example. The Rabbi Yochanan Amar, says Rabbi Yochanan, Af Yedei Yayin Nami Yatsu. So he disagreed there with Rav, okay, in that statement, saying that they did fulfill the requirement of the wine. Va'azda Rabbi Yochanan Latame. And Rabbi Yochanan followed his own line of thinking. Da'amar Rav Chanin bar Abaye, according to Rav Chanin bar Abaye, Amar Rabbi Ptat, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Ptat, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Achar Shinui Yayin, after any change of wine, Va'achar Shinui Makom, as we go to the next Amud, or after any change of place, Ein Sarich Levarech. One is not required to make a new blessing. Now, Meitive, Gemara is going to challenge this based on a Braita. Shinui Makom Tzrich Levarech. According to this Braita, a change in location, one is expected to make a new blessing. Shinui Yayin Ein Sarich Levarech. A change in the wine, in other words, a different cup, a different brand, whatever, okay? Remember that they used to use a mixture of wine and water. They had wine was more like syrup. They would add water to it. That's really why the Seder, why we have the phrase mazgu lo kos, right? They mixed, not just poured, okay? So what happens, right? But a change of wine, one doesn't need a new blessing. Tiyufta de Rabbi Yochanan, tiyufta. And therefore this seems to be a clear proof text against the statement of Rabbi Yochanan that we see him having just said. Now, Yativ Rav Idi bar Avin, Kame de Rav Chista. So occasion occurred that Rav Idi was sitting, right, in front of Rav Chista. V'yativ Rav Chista, v'ka'amar mishmei de Rav Huna. and Rav Hista was sitting, and he was speaking, okay, halacha shiur based on Rav Huna. Hada amart shinui makom tzarich levarech. Here in this example where you said that a change of location requires one to make a new blessing, lo shanu elami bayit lebayit. They only taught that if it was going from one house to another house. Aval mimakom lemakom lo.
No.
But from one place to another in the same house, he argues that was not the case. Now, Amar le Rav Idi bar Avin, and he responds, Hachi tanina le b'matnita de be Rav Hinik ba'amre le b'matnita de be Rav Hinik kivatech. He tells us as follows. This is based on a Braita, okay? Could have been a Mishnah, okay, that was taught in the, let's call it the Matnita here would be like the Matifta, okay, like the Academy of Rabbi Hinik, and others say it was the Academy of Bar Hinik, that he did not have an official smicha. Kivatech, according to what you said. Ve'ela Rav Huna, okay, but rather regarding the statement of Rav Huna, matnita kamashmalan. If that's the case, why did Rav Huna have to teach this? What is he coming to teach? If we have other academies that clearly taught the same thing, what's new in what Rav Huna is trying to teach? Rav Huna matnita lo shamiale. Interesting statement, says the Gemara, that Rav Huna was not aware of this particular, and that's why I'm calling it a Braita, okay, situation, okay, because not all the Chazal were able to know all of the Braitot, okay. Certainly they knew those that were in the, let's say, accepted Tosefta of Rabbi Yossi. So the Gemara continues. V'tu, and furthermore, Yativ Rav Chisda, v'ka'amar mishmei denafshe. Rav Chisda was explaining it and teaching it in his own name. Ha, da'amart shinui makom, tzrich levarech, lo amran, ela b'dvarim she'ein te'unin bracha la'acharehen bimkomam. Namely, going now into more detail, that when we said, even in the case that a change of place does require a new blessing, if they did not say that, except rather in a situation where we're dealing with foods, okay, that don't require a blessing after them to be said in that same place. Okay? Say like something that is water or fruit that you need simply to say just the blessing before it. Aval dvarim hati'unin bracha la'acharehen bimkomam. But regarding those things, those kinds of foods, where we do require a blessing to be said after them in that place, in other words, we require, say, bracha achrona, or Borei Nefashot, or certainly Birkat Hamazon, okay? Ein sarich levarech. One doesn't have to say a new blessing. Mai tama, what would be the reasoning? Lekiva kama hadar, to establish it regarding the earlier place, okay? Or the return to that place. In other words, if one didn't have to start a whole new blessing, but if one's intent was to, as if continue the meal, but in a new location, okay? It was as if it was the same as it was before. Okay? The Rav Sheshet, Amar, However, Rav Sheshet suggests the following, and this is going to be a challenge to Rav Chista's view. He said, Echad ze ve'echad ze tzarich levarech. Okay? Whether it's one kind of food or another kind of food, one would need to make a new blessing. Now, comes the Gemara and gives another challenge. Meitive. What about the following Braita? B'nei chavura shahayu mesubin lishtot. Say that there was a group of people gathered together and they were having drinks, right? Va'akru raglehen, and they moved their legs. In other words, they got up from their divans where they were reclining, sitting, whatever. Let's say likrat chatan or likrat kala, to go and meet and bless, let's say, even a new groom or a new bride. K'shehen yotzin, when they go out, ein tu'unin bracha lemafreya. They don't require a blessing after them. K'shehen chozrin, ein tu'unin bracha lechatchila. And when they return, they're not required to do a brand new blessing all over again at the outset. Bamed varim amurim, what are we talking about? Shehenichu sham zakein ochule, that they left somebody in that location who is either an elderly person or a sick person. Aval lo henichu sham lo zakein velo chule, k'shehen yotzin. But if they did not, let's say, leave behind another individual from their group, be that person elderly or ill, when they left, te'unin bracha lemafreya, then they need to have recited a blessing after. Kshehen chozrin, and when they return, te'unin bracha lechatchila, they need to recite another blessing at the outset. Now, so the Gemara says, on what basis, wants to know on what basis does the Braita bring this requirement? Midikatani akru raglehen. Since the Braita taught that they uprooted their legs, in other words, they got up and left the place, Miklau, the b'dvarim hateunim bracha la'achareihem bimkomam askina. This generally implies that we're dealing with kinds of food that require a blessing after them in the place. Okay, in that place, that's what we're dealing with. V'tama dehinichu sham zakein ochole. And the reason that the Braita says that they allowed, that they left behind an elderly or ill person, hu de k'shehen yotzin. That's where, when they leave, ein tu'unin bracha lemafreya, that they don't require a blessing after. Uk'shehen chozrin ein tu'unin bracha lechatchila, or that they, when they come back, they do not need to have a new blessing recited. Aval lo hinichu sham zakein ochole k'shehen yotzin. But if they did not leave behind an elderly or ill person when they left, tu'unin bracha lemafreya, they are required to make a blessing after, uk'shehen chozrin, and when they return, tu'unin bracha lechatchila, they are required to make a blessing at the outset. Now, we'll just continue to go just a little bit. Kasha l'Rav Chista. Therefore, this is also a problem, a challenge to Rav Chista. Now, what happens? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak wants to question that challenge, and he says, on top of Kaf Bet Amud Aleph, Man Tana Akirut. Who said, who was the Tana that taught that this applied when people got up and left? Rav Yehuda. It was Rebbe Yehuda, the Tanya, who taught Chaverim Shahayu Misubin, colleagues, friends that were gathered, right?
Eating
They were
together.
reclining, okay, for a meal, for drinking. Va'akru raglehem lelech lebeit hakneset ulebeit hamidrash. And they got up, they got on their feet, right? Remember, I told you they're lying on divans, right? Chaise lounges, right? And when they got up to go to the synagogue or to the base midrash, Keshehen yotzim, when they leave, ein tu'unin bracha lemafreya. They do not require a blessing after. Keshehen chozrin, ein tu'unin bracha lechatchila. They don't need a blessing when they come back. Okay? In other words, this is what the Braita teaches. Amar Rabbi
That's
Yehuda.
assuming that they're going to come back.
Right, assuming that they're going to come back there. Exactly, Zev. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, B'med Varim Amorim, B'zman Shehenichu Sham Mektzat Chaverim. At the time they left some of their colleagues there, friends there. Aval lo hinichu sham miktzat chaverim. But if they did not leave any neighbors, friends, colleagues there, what happens, right? Keshehen yotzin te'unin bracha lemafreya. When they leave, they need to do a blessing after. Ukeshehen chozrin te'unin bracha lechatchila. They need to do a blessing beforehand. Okay, new blessing. Okay, now just looking to come to we're going to stop right there, I think. All right, that's a good place. And then we'll pick up tomorrow. Okay, the rest of that, where they give whether this is a proof text against others. And that's then when we get to a new subject, which is going to be, what about when Shabbat and Yom Tov coincide, either Friday night or Motzei, or you have a Yom Tov start on Saturday night? What is going to be the order of what you say? Because the question is going to come up, do you really need a new cup, or can you say multiple blessings on the same cup? Okay, so that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. All right, so everybody take care and stay well, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Okay.